So today we're looking at brake shoes on my Cannondale Super V900. Bicycle came with V-brakes and the brake pads were looking kind of thin. I was at the bike store and I showed a picture of the brake system to the mechanic at the bike store, and he provided me with some Kool stop replacement brake pads. As you'll see in a few minutes, they didn't fit and required significant modification. Maybe that's my fault. I just bought the brake pads based on a picture on my phone and the bike mechanic's recommendation. But I did make them fit. They're on the bicycle now. You'll see in a moment how that was accomplished. Here's our helper, Max. Today we're looking at some Tectonic bicycle caliper brake pads from Kool Stop. These are sold in a package of 6 to replace 2 brake pads that look like this. This is a Shimano V-brake arrangement. So where this slid out, these are supposed to slide in, but unfortunately they are much thicker in every dimension than the original, and there's no way that they will fit. So I've begun to sand them down. It's not really worth my while to go back to the bike store and get my $9 back, but perhaps if I sand them to fit, I'll get some use out of them. So hopefully you can see in the video how much thicker this portion is compared to the Shimano. This is much too thick to fit into the metal brake shoe on the bicycle. So what I've done is to start sanding these. Careful not to get a wedge shape going, but an even reduction in the thickness. I hope I don't go through $9 worth of sandpaper to make these fit. But as I'm sanding, then I can compare to the original shoe. Here we go. Once that lip is gone, once that's the same surface, then I've sanded it enough. Here we can see after significant sanding, I did get 1 installed, so that's 1 down and 6 to go. The distance between my fingernails is quite a bit greater than on the original part. I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and try to reduce that because I cannot get in there with the sandpaper. And my fear is between the X-Acto cutting and the sanding, these may just break off. I may be out on the trail and find that they've all fallen out because so much material had to be removed for them to even fit. But as I trim these sides, that's less material that I have to sand, so I'm doing this first. You can see the Kool Stop brand name right there. Yeah, this isn't working as good from the side. I'll have to try again from the top like this. So again, to get this dimension from here to here, closer to this dimension from here to here, I'm going to take an X-Acto knife, trim a little bit off. That's Rubber I won't have to sand also, so I'm doing this first. And hopefully, removing this material will not mean failure on the bicycle, but I certainly can't guarantee that. It's really not too hard cutting from this direction to trim a little material off. Just like that. Problem now is I can't get that pin to go through this groove. I'm going to cut a new groove right here, right under the S in USA. At some point I have to wonder, maybe if I just took an old tire and carved my own shoes out of it from scratch, maybe that would have been faster. Then I heard Frank say, that's enough. So at this point I did get the 6 individual shoes installed on the Shimano shoe holders. I'll zoom in here. As we interpreted the picture on the package, the sawtooth shoe we put first, and then the 2 not sawtooth shoes went second. These pins were actually remarkably easy to put in once I carved a new slot for them, a new groove next to the S in USA. Also, I'll point out I used LPS silicone spray to help get the shoes into these holders. I hope none got on the friction surface, because that's not going to help stop the bicycle. So starting from scratch, I certainly wouldn't recommend these, but I did get them to fit, and we'll see in the days to come if they stay in the holders despite the cutting and the sanding that it took for them to fit. So at this point I've gone on an extended test ride with the new Kool stop pads, and generally the news isn't good. For one thing, the front still has the original pad and it's a very hard feel. Those pads are almost ceramic in nature. The new Kool stop pads, and maybe this is intentional, very mushy, and the braking force is just not that great. Maybe it will improve in time, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that. So at this point, complete fiasco. I expect I'll leave them in place until they wear out, and I accept some of the responsibility. I should have gone to the bike store with the old pads in hand and found the correct ones to replace them with. And here's our friend. Thanks, and be sure to watch my other videos.